This is Daniel Whited from Denver, Colorado. Welcome to the Doctor's Clinic. We have Dr. Kurt Fisnick on with us again this evening, and we're excited about what's going on and talking about health and longevity of health. And we have in our hands a couple products and things that will help people get some longevity to life. And, the body is designed to maintain and run, 120 to 150 years. I mean, you can go back into the Bible research, and it talks about that. It talks about that as well. And so, getting into some of that, it just seems like there's a lot of factors out here for years that stop people from having any kind of longevity. And so, Dr. Kurt Fisnick, welcome to the call, my friend. You want to say hi to everybody before we get started?
Hey, DW, thanks for having me on the call, man.
You are welcome. I mean, Doctor, get into a little bit, and I'm not sure exactly where you want to start 100%, but, we talk about longevity. I don't know. There's so many diseases that have come to try to stop people, but a lot of them, Doc, are self-inflicted. There's a lot of autoimmune diseases or self-inflicted autoimmune diseases and things that stop people from having that longevity. But the more we learn and the more research that we have and the more science-based information that we act upon that moves in the natural realm versus the narcotic and synthetic realm, we're seeing people live longer. And have you found that to be the case, Doc?
Yeah, definitely, DW. When you start talking about health, you start looking at what's been happening over the last couple of hundred years. Go back 200 years, 300 years. The average lifespan of a man was 35 to 40 years. Here we are today, 200 years later, and the average lifespan of a man is right around 80 years old, 78 to 80 years old. So in 200 years, we've doubled the lifespan of the human being. And I just talk to people and I say, just think, it's coming. It's coming. They're saying that the first person to live to be 150 was probably born in the last couple of years. So here again, we're going to start seeing people doubling the average lifespan. Holy cow. I mean, think about that.
Well, I mean, so that means that middle age will hit you around 60, 70 years old instead of people winding down and saying, hey, I only want to live till I'm 75 or whatever. It's going to change things. But let's go back. You talked about 100 years, 200 years. Let's go back to, caveman days. What was the one thing that killed most people back in that time frame?
Well, and that's interesting. Back in the days of the caveman, back in the kind of Neanderthal days, I mean, if you go back and look, infection is what took people out. It wasn't the saber-toothed tigers. It wasn't cave bears. It wasn't the T-Rex. It wasn't getting stabbed by a triceratops or anything like that. I mean, it was plain old infections, bacterial infections. People would get a cut, they'd get an infection, and they died. They were drinking water that was poisoned by, because they were pooping and peeing in the same water that they were drinking. And really, we move to today. What's the greatest thing that we've changed in the world that's increased that longevity? And DW, it's not antibiotics. It's not things like that. It's not because we know how to do medical procedures. We started drinking clean water. We're separating the water that we're pooping in from the water that we're drinking from, and that's the greatest medical discovery that we've had in the history of man.
Well, let me ask this: when it comes to infections and what's going on in the body, what's the body's defense against infections?
Well, I mean, you start looking at what happens when you get an infection. All of a sudden, you start getting swelling. You get edema, right? And think of any type of thing that you have going on. If you have Alzheimer's, there's a component to Alzheimer's that's caused by edema. When you look at heart disease, the heart's on fire. It's loaded up with all kinds of edema and inflammation. You take a look at people that have cancer. There's all sorts of inflammation. You take a look at people that have digestive problems. There's inflammation. And so the body's natural response to any kind of a disease or any kind of an illness or injury is the first thing that happens is inflammation. Then the second thing that happens is the body tries to wall that off. It builds scar tissue. So if you have an infection, a bacterial infection, the body goes in and it kind of builds a capsule around the infection. When you have an injury, you tear a shoulder muscle, for example. What happens is the body goes in, it causes inflammation, and it tries to wall it off. And so our bodies are kind of, the immune system and the repair system is kind of back in the Stone Ages. And so that's why we're starting to see now that the things that we're doing, we're saying, hey, we can improve upon that. We just have to retrain the body to respond in a different way. And so that's what we're seeing in today's, modern medicine.
Well, I mean, once you stop infections, or you slow them down, or you recover from them quicker, than the lifespan lasts longer. But at one point, people was living on this planet, 35, 40 years was considered old. At what point did we now consider? And this is if we take, and I think, there's a lot to this question, though, Doc, but at what point did people accept the fact that 65 years of age is old? And how did our government look after for like Social Security?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, DW, and that was one of the points that I wanted you to bring up tonight. I mean, you take a look at it. How did they magically come up with the 65 years of age being the point at which we start to collect Social Security, right? I mean, was that something that just popped in their head? No, the reason that they chose that age was really something that was discovered, or it was used in Germany. If you made it to 65, you were considered to be kind of the elder of the community. And so the Germans actually set up a system, much like our Social Security system, and they said, hey, if you make it to 65, we're going to reward you by giving you this money to live on for the rest of your life. And so when we set up the Social Security system in the United States, we kind of followed that model that was already there. Well, guess what? Now, 65, holy cow, everybody makes it to 65, and they don't even think of that as anything. Now, you make it past that. I mean, they actually say that if you make it to 65, if you go look at the kind of the actuarial tables that they have with life insurance and health insurance and all of that, they're saying if you're at 65, you better plan on having enough money set to the side, because you're going to live to 80, almost 80. You better have enough money put away for that. And if you don't, then they ask you, the life insurance guys, they're going to ask you, what do you plan on doing? Living in the street? Living with your kids? And so we have to start looking at those things, DW.
Well, and that kind of, it's like the government's not going to, they're not going to shoot. I don't know how to explain it to you, but I'm not going to get into all the conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of science out there, and science guys that you hear them talk about, they're not big proponents of people getting old. In other words, they just assume somebody would probably check off this planet a little bit quicker than what they might want to.
No, in DW, it's not even that. When you start looking at some of the things that are out there, Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, he was a director for the National Institutes of Health. 2013, he wrote a paper that was printed in the Atlantic magazine, and he basically, the title of the article, and I don't quote me on it, but the title of the article really was, "Hey, I want to die by the time I'm 75," and the reason that he wrote the article is that because he said that at the age of 75, you've become non-productive, you've got some hearing trouble, you've got some blindness, you've got increased risk of cancer, you got heart disease, you got Alzheimer's, you got dementia, you're a burden to society. And so Dr. Emanuel said, people should just plan on dying at the age of 75. And he was really, some of these guys are talking about setting up, you remember Dr. Kevorkian type of clinics where, you can go in and, I'm 75, time to take me out. And the problem with it is that, that theory is part of the problem, because there's a lot of people like you and me and a lot of the people that are on the call right now, we're going, holy cow, 75, that's nothing. I mean, I just had my mom and dad over for dinner the other night. My mom is 77, my dad is 78, and they're out there doing things. They're still traveling. They're going on vacations. They're having fun. And what if instead of saying, hey, die at 75, let's teach people how to live longer? I mean, on the back of my business card it says, have you ever thought about living forever? Not that we can, but what if you thought about it? What do you need?
Yeah, people don't think about that. I mean, it doesn't cross their mind, and knowing that the body has the ability and is designed to go to 120, 150 years old. Mentally thinking that you're supposed to shut down when you're 60 or 65 is just, so a lot of it does have to do with attitude, has to do with how you take care of your body, how you see things. And, it's the same thing with my dad. He's, matter of fact, I think 83. And he goes to work, he does his things, but, he's also taking really good care of his body when it comes to nutrition, feeding it things that would bring it life instead of kill it. But let me ask you this. We're starting to see more chronic health issues, and pain just doesn't hit somebody. It turns into chronic pain. Things seem to linger versus people getting through them and open. Why is that?
Say that again. I missed your question there.
Okay, we've started seeing more chronic health issues. Why are we seeing more chronic health issues?
Yeah, it's interesting. That's an interesting question, DW, is that if we go back to about, 60 years ago, somewhere around that, 65 years ago, go back to about the time right after World War II in the 50s. What was some of the things that we saw changing after World War II? Now, well, number one, right, we started going with more chemical farming. Right, they started putting lots of nitrogen on the soil, and it makes really big crops, great big ears of corn, great big green crops, right? But the nutritional value of that crop is gone. I mean, the nutrition is zero compared to what it used to be. You grew up in Kansas, you know what I'm talking about, and
oh yeah,
and I'm out here in rural North Dakota. I'm in farm country right now. I'm kind of afraid of saying some of the stuff I'm going to say because, I just might shot. But, they started using the nitrogen fertilizer, and it started making great big crops, but there's no nutrition. There's part of the problem. Then what happened is we really started using a lot of antibiotics. I mean, really, in my opinion, overuse of antibiotics. And what happened was we killed off the weak bacteria, and we made stronger and stronger strains of bacteria that are killing us. And then on top of that, we quit doing the crop rotation. We quit doing the what I consider to be the farming practices that really kept the soil healthy, and we started depleting the soil of the minerals and the nutrients that it had in it. And so now we got more problems with the plants not bringing in the nutrients that we need. And so what does this all do to us? Well, it starts to cause problems, DW. It starts to cause problems where all of a sudden we start to destroy the natural healthy bacteria in our gut. And here's the problem with that. This is some stuff that people may not have heard of before, and they may not have ever thought about it before. But I'm going to throw it out there, and I want everybody to think about it, and think about it, and every so often just think about it. And eventually it's going to come across, and you're going to see science on it. You're going to see things written on it, because I tend to read things that are more kind of, I'm going to say, some of that modern science that a lot of people don't see. And it might take you 5-10 years before it becomes traditional science. But what they're finding is this, DW, is that the healthy bacteria that lines your mucous membranes, the healthy bacteria that's on the outside surface of your skin, what does that do? Well, that's kind of your firewall. That's your barrier between you, the cells in your body, and the outside environment. So that's what communicates the outside environment with the inside of your body is the healthy bacteria. And it lives inside of your nose and your mucous membranes, and it lives inside of your sinus cavities. And these healthy bacteria live inside your every organ that's exposed. And then on the outside surface of your skin, you have healthy bacteria that protect you. Well, you start thinking of all the things that we're doing. We're taking antibiotics. We've overused antibiotics, and somebody might say to me, "Well, Kurt, I don't take antibiotics, right?" And I go, "Well, really? Do you eat meat? Do you go to the store and buy chicken? Do you go to the store and buy turkey? You buy some beef at the grocery store. Well, guess what? 85% of the antibiotics that are used globally, not just in the United States, but 85% of the antibiotic use globally is used in animals. It's not used in humans. It's used in animals. So when we eat that beef, when we eat that chicken, when we eat that turkey, we're getting that stuff. We're getting those antibiotics in our system, and it's killing off that normal, healthy bacteria that's in our system. And then on top of it, we're in this crazy craze that we're doing right now that we have antibacterial soaps, and we're putting antibacterial products in our toothpaste, and we're putting antibacterial products in our skincare and all these different things, and we're killing off the normal healthy bacteria that are on the outside of your skin, and so we've lost that barrier as well. So it's not just the mucous membranes, it's your entire body. Well, that's the communication between your body and the outside environment. Then we start looking on the inside, DW, and on the inside of your cells, the cells have to communicate. The nucleus has to communicate with the mitochondria, and it has to communicate with the cell membrane. Everything inside your cell has to communicate with each other. Well, guess what? The mitochondria, which is the power plant inside your cell, the nuclear power plant of your cell, it looks a lot like a bacteria. It probably evolved from a bacteria if we go way back in time, at when man evolved. And so the mitochondria, the nuclear power plant of the cell, it looks like a bacteria. So guess what? While we're doing all this stuff with all these antibiotics and antibacterial soaps and all that, we're destroying the communication inside the cell between the nucleus and the mitochondria. Well, guess what? That's not where it ends. All of a sudden now we start to destroy the communication in our body between cells, between organs. So we've effectively damaged every system in our body as far as the communication. What does that do? Well, it sets you up for future injuries. It sets you up for future ways that you're not going to heal. And so when we start talking about old age, guess what? Dr. Emanuel, when he's talking about, hey, I want to die at the age of 75, well, sure he does. Because he's thinking about people that have dementia, he's thinking about people that have Alzheimer's, he's thinking of cancer, he's thinking of all these different things, right? And what I'm saying is that why don't we address the issue, right? Why don't we address the issue and start looking at how do we fix this? Well, number one, let's start getting away from some of those chemical things that we're using and start using some natural products, like hair care and skin care. I was just talking to a gal here 5 minutes before the call. We were talking about using shaving cream that's healthy for you, and it doesn't have all the chemicals in it. Earlier in the day, I was talking to a friend of mine about using exfolium. These products like that. But then on top of that, so we're kind of eliminating that part of it. What do you do to rebuild the digestive system? Well, the digestive system is all inflamed. You know what product we need to get rid of the inflammation? Then we have a product that helps rebuild the gut lining, And again, I'm going to let you kind of bring up the products, but just think about it. We can take and we can rebuild that gut lining. We can rebuild that communication center. Then we've got a product like Transfusium that has an ingredient in it that actually helps to help your body rebuild that protective barrier. It helps those healthy bacteria that's supposed to be living on the outside surface of your skin. It helps that. We've got that in our Transfusium product. And then you start looking at the communication between the nucleus and the mitochondria. What product helps that? Well, that's a pretty easy one. That's Eternity. Eternity has the resveratrol. You start looking at resveratrol, it stimulates the mitochondria to start producing that communication system again within the cell. Holy cow. And then you have TSX, which we start talking about telomeres. And telomeres are the communication between cells. And it starts telling the organs of the body, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And now, DW, it's nuts. A 102-year-old man is running marathons, right? He's running marathons. First man to ever run a marathon over the age of 100. We've got a 98-year-old gal out in San Francisco area who just got her 10-degree black belt in judo. 98 years old, DW. Then we've got a guy. He's still out there doing rodeos at 80 years old. He's over 80 years old and he's doing rodeos. right? We got 55-year-old and 65-year-old people going to the gym and outlifting 20 and 30-year-olds because, you know, they're finding out how to make their body so it can effectively work again. And so now, you know, that guy from the National Institutes of Health, I mean, you just got to be thinking, man, hey, let me show you something that I know. Let me have you listen to this conference call that I was just on. I mean, these are the kinds of things that we need to do to get people going. And I can just go on and on, DW. You can tell.
Well, you get a little fired up. That's exciting, but we're talking about a couple of things. How does infection hit the body? Well, it's when the body is, you know, you're saying the body gets broken down because of you know, a lack of the proper bacteria. I mean, there's a good bacteria and there's the bad. And then you put antibiotics on there, then all these hand lotions and everything that people wear that are, you know, antibacterial and yada, yada, yada. So it creeps up. I mean, it's not like you use the wrong product today, you're gonna fall apart tomorrow, but it will residually build up on you, just like interest rates will you know, you can make money on putting money in interest. It builds up. It compounds is really the word I'm trying to use. And so, Doctor, we're talking about gut health a little bit and getting your small intestines, your large intestines, the colon and everything operating. You know, I heard one doctor teach one time that a lot of colds and flus and infections comes because the colon's not healthy. And then, you know, and the reason it's not healthy, the gut's not healthy. And the reason it's not healthy, the kidney and liver are all jammed up. And toxins, you take Michael Jackson, he didn't have to die like that. He had so many toxins in his body that it was oozing out of his skin. I mean, that's just crazy. And so, Doctor, you want to jump in? Can you, real quick, can you say something about our you know, one of the products that's going to help people to get themselves in a position to where they can have the right probiotics and prebiotics. Can you explain that when it comes to our Balance D product and how that can help with gut health?
Yeah, you bet, DW. You know, I mean, the whole thing is that when you take a look at the healthy system, the microbiome that's going on in your digestive system, you're supposed to have 30,000 different kinds of strains of healthy bacteria and healthy yeast and things like that are growing inside your system. You're supposed to have more cells, more of those bacteria in your body and on your body, in your mucous membranes. You're supposed to have more of that than actual cells in your body. And we've effectively killed that off, and we've talked about that. So what Balance D has in it is it's got the acidophilus, it's got the probiotics so it can rebuild that system. But then it's also got the prebiotics so that we can feed the system. It's got the ingredients so we can rebuild the mucous membranes, and that's the place where you have to start in order to get that communication going between the outside environment and the inside of your body, DW.
Well, I'm just going to let everybody know when it comes to getting healthy, one of the things you want to jump on is obviously going to be our triangle of life, and the person that brought you to this call can get you more information. But to specifically just stop and take a moment and get into the proper gut health, you know, the Ficoidin in the triangle of life is going to be it just helps. It prepares the kidney and the liver to dump toxins a little bit faster. So being on that product for a few days, and here again, we're not claiming to heal anyone and cure anybody and all that stuff. We're just putting you in a position to where you can do what you can in the natural to be as healthy as you possibly can be. And then Doc's talking about all this stuff's not in the food anymore. And it's not. Wheat used to be 40% protein, and it's less than 7% now. And so we know those things, and you'll hear me mention that on a lot of calls because you just need to know what we see, and you know, and what we see is not what we get anymore when it comes to our food. So you take our SpectraMax, the blue bottle. It has everything in it that's going to help you when it comes to having essential, which means non-negotiable, essential trace minerals. When Doc's talking about letting the land rest for a couple, 2 or 3 years, and then working the soil again, you know, that gives it a chance to get those trace minerals back in the soil. Well, our government only makes it mandatory that there's 4 things put back in the soil when you need about 82 or 83. Well, we have one bottle of SpectraMax that's 74 essential trace minerals to feed your body. That's going to start giving you the proper help. And then you move to what he's talking about when it comes to eternity a little bit, and resveratrol and healing things up and giving the body life. But now we move into balanced eating. He mentioned the prebiotics and probiotics. Someone just called me the other day, and they have a little baby, and they're nursing the baby, and the baby's not digesting. When the mom eats a little bit of protein, it's not digesting the protein properly. And the mom was out of balance because she got a little bit sick and had to do some doctor stuff. And I said, man, let's start with this balanced eat. And we did. And the baby immediately responded. And instead of screaming after it was eaten because it wasn't doing well, it's doing extremely good right now. And that's a good case study situation to where you can look at what was going on. And so getting the bad bacteria out, but also replacing with the good bacteria, that's brilliant. And that's one of the things our balanced D does. It has a whole bunch of things that it does, and we won't go into everything this evening as we wind the call down. But then building your immune system up to help you fight infections. You have the Triangle of Life. You've got the balanced D, which is massive. Our brand new Sisel Immune will help you target some specific areas to build your immune system back up. The Sequoia will blast your immune system, and it's a broad spectrum of immune support. And then you have a product we call Influence. And a lot of people take it around the times that you have flus and stuff like that going on. But I found it to be helpful to take year-round, and have done it myself. And it's a tremendous protector. And Doc, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't mention Body Shield, but Body Shield's crazy good when it comes to helping your body get the heavy metals out. Because Doc and I both know people out here, you'll tell them, don't use that toothpaste. Quit using that the pit juice, deodorant that has all aluminum in it, and they're going to do it anyways. So using the Body Shield to get the heavy metals out of your body is essential. It is a must-do, and that's a big game changer. Then you want to rebuild the damage and rebuild and help the organs get more supple and stop shrinking and start growing, put more cells allow your body according to the Nobel Prize technology that's with the TSX. Guys, now we've moved into something that is ginormous. And it's one of Tom's favorite products, which is TSX. And so, every single week I'd have Doc talk on TSX if he would. And it's one of his favorite all-time products outside of the water. And he mentioned the water in the beginning. You want to get healthy, I'm telling you right now, drink the water, the hydrogen water, and then you can drink the purified water. Here's what I do know. There was an expert that came up from one of the famous big-time selling, starts with a K, water companies, and he was looking at our filters and looking at what we had our hands on when it came to our water. And he noticed that our filters, that when medications come through the water because of what's in our water, because a lot of water has a lot of pharmaceutical medicine in it, just because it's been dumped in a whole bit. We won't get into all that. His filters doesn't take that out. And ours filters that stuff out. And so it is a game changer on getting water into your system that's going to feed the cells, hydronate the cells, and then when the hydrogen grabs a hold of these nutraceuticals that I just talked about, it's going to pull them in like a needle pulls a thread when you sew on a patch to a jean jacket. That's what hydrogen does when it comes to our nutrition, just pulls it right on through. So, Dr. Kurt Fisnick, we appreciate you tonight. Anything you want to add to what I'm saying here? I opened up the door. We could talk about just each product for probably 2 or 3 hours,
You bet. And I'll just say this. This is my closing thought, all right? When we start talking about longevity, we start talking about helping people live healthy and things like that, think of it like this, right? We can't decide how long, that genetic code is, that genetic code in our book, in our book of life, 23 chapters, that's been pre-written. That's been pre-written by a power that's way above us. And so we can't change that. But here's the deal, right? Most of us that are on this call, we're going to live longer, no matter if you try or you don't try. If you just say, I'm just going to let the cards fly where they might be, right? Well, here's the deal on it. You're going to live longer than what you think. And what I try and throw to people is that do you want to come flying in at the finish line sliding in and having fun and being healthy and enjoying life and living to your genetic potential in a good, healthy way? Or do you want to come in and have one of your kids pushing you in a wheelchair, changing your diapers, and you don't even know who you are, right? And that's the thing you got to start thinking about, because that's the stuff that you have to start doing now. You don't wait until all of a sudden you're sick and you go, now what am I going to do? You start going, hey, I know that I'm going to get sick. I know that I'm going to be exposed to this stuff. I know that I'm going to be exposed to bacteria and toxins and funguses and all these things that are all around us. And you just can't hide. I mean, we've always heard you can run, but you can't hide. And so what I try and tell people is make your body Chuck Norris strong. Make it so that when a toxin comes up to you, it's more scared of you than you are of it. And that's my closing thought for tonight, DW. And don't have a going out of business sale in your body where you go out of business and it takes you 20 years to die. What you want to do is you want to live. And then one day you just go, hey, it's time, rather than dying for 20 years. Back to you.
Dr. Kurt, we appreciate you, man. I'm telling you, I'm going to quote Clifton Whitehead, my father. And it was back in the day before we knew how much damage some of this food was. He was getting a little more picky about how he ate, and he started eating like a hamburger. If he had one, he didn't eat the top part of the bun. Then eventually got rid of the bun because he realized what was in some of the things. But he made a comment, and I use it on a lot of stuff that I send out to people. He said the greatest gift that you can give your family is your health. And so you don't want to be where Dr. Kurt's talking about. Now, we can't control everything, but the things we can control, we better control them. The things we can do, we need to be doing them. The things that the areas we can make a difference, we need to be making a difference. And it starts with our own self. Look at what you're putting on your body, and look at what you're putting in your body. And so, you want to have some longevity, and when you have it, have joy and fun and right backs and go fishing and climb mountains and do things. When you're in your 70s, 80s, 90s, 110, I mean, it's crazy. This can happen to you, but it starts with you making the right decisions today. Dr. Kurt, we appreciate you. Everybody, thanks for being part of the Dr. Clinic's call, where the world is your waiting room. Dr. Clinic's call next Tuesday, same time, same place. Have a good week, everybody. God bless.